Now, in this video, what we're going to talk about is JP Morgan, right? Now, JP Morgan are focused on dragging their employees back to the office after they've been working at home for some time, and they want them in the office 5 days a week. So no hybrid working, nothing like that. And it's not going well. The employees are revolting. The employees are leaking audio. And here you have a clip of the CEO crybaby of JP Morgan. His name's Jamie Dimon, and he's grumbling about people working from home, and he's going on a complete temper tantrum here. And this clip has been leaked by some of the employees. It has 4.9 million views right now, so almost 5 million views. So let's listen to this crybaby CEO and see what we can learn from his whinging.
A lot of you were on the fucking Zoom and you were doing the following, okay? Looking at your mail, sending texts to each other about what an asshole the other person is. Okay, not paying attention, not reading your stuff, and if you don't think that slows down efficiency, creativity, creates stuff, it does, okay? And when I found out that people are doing that, you don't do that in my goddamn meetings. You go to a meeting with me, you got my attention, you got my focus, I don't bring my goddamn phone, I'm not sending texts to people, okay? It simply doesn't work for creativity, it slows down decision making.
So before we move on, firstly, he's cursing about Zoom and things like that. Now, of course, when people are on any group calls, any type of call with a broad forum, which typically are a lot of these corporate meetings, and they're logged in through a Zoom call or through their laptop, their work PC, even if they're in the office or working from home. The truth is, not everyone is paying attention 100% all the time, right? So, of course, it's normal for people to look at their mail, look at their text, do instant messaging, whatever it would be, whether it's at home or in the office. So this kind of brief comment he's making initially to criticize working from home, it doesn't kind of make sense, right? People often send instant messages to each other, maybe joking while a major meeting's going on to spare time or kind of let the time go quicker when they're in these pointless meetings. And what he doesn't seem to get, just to start off with, is that, if he's a CEO or you're someone in a very senior role, a lot of the meetings really need your attention, right? Because you're might be after signing off on something. You might be asked to make a final call as a major decision while it's already previously been reviewed by all the more junior management, and you're the guy right at the top, the CEO, and you need to sign off on it. So it makes sense that he needs to pay attention in a lot of his meetings. But a lot of people at more junior levels, they need to kind of really bide their time and waste their time in a lot of meetings where they have to listen to all these other stakeholders talk about things that doesn't impact them. Anyone who's watching this, I'm sure you've been in your standard team meetings and any corporate job or any other job really where you might have all these team members talking about what they're working on. It has absolutely nothing to do with what you've been working on, but it's just the manager wants to hear what they've been doing, just so everyone has a rough idea what's going on in other people's type of workload and projects. So it makes sense that people are going to buy time or use that time productively, maybe, sending emails on work-related matters or doing other project work while they're listening to these kind of pointless team calls that they're on, department calls, all these type of time-wasting exercises. Now, if you are someone who's working at JP Morgan or another, major corporation, you want a remote job, you'd rather do that than work in the office. If you're new to the channel, I've worked at Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs, many other top banks. And I have a career coaching program that can help you find the remote jobs if that's what you're looking for, or more flexible working options, which are available at other banks like CISI Group and things like that. So link in description if you want to speak with me. But getting back to the clip here. So this is what he tends to be whinging on, right? So focus and attention isn't always needed on meetings, and blaming working from home for that is just a bit ridiculous, right? People can simply pay attention to a meeting and wait for their cue to say something while doing something productive on their laptop. So like blaming work from home, which is going to be a common theme you'll see with lots of people with the return to the office mandate, is completely ridiculous, right? Lots of time gets wasted in the office, and I would argue more time gets wasted in the office with the gossip at the water cooler, with the type of time wasting. You have to eat your lunch at your desk, you can't go for a walk, your manager's always keeping a keen eye on what you're doing, on how you're sitting at the desk. Are you sitting up straight? Are you speaking with people nicely? Are you pretending to be fake nice? Are you going to the coffee break with the other co-workers to be a good team player by chit-chatting with them in the office? All of those things are time wasting. I would say those are waste more time and energy of the company than people working from home and the employees who prefer to conserve their energy and work more effectively working from home. And also, obviously, companies are wasting their resources with all this corporate or commercial real estate, CRE, if you're familiar with that, is all these office blocks. Now, that's why I don't buy this whole argument that all these corporations, they think it's valuable use of their money to have these expensive offices, which are in prime real estate areas. It's not like they have some offices in a cheaper part of town. Typically, that's the center hub of town. I can only imagine how many thousands they spend for each, desk in that office in, the prime hub of Wall Street, of Canary Wharf in London, for example, or any major location, Shanghai, Tokyo, wherever that would be. And it's basically what they want to do is take people back to the office to control every aspect of their life rather than just have productive employees that have been working from home. Now, I covered this in previous videos for Amazon too, so it's a bit ridiculous that he doesn't seem to understand that. Because he must have worked at junior levels. He probably had an accelerated career path, based on his last name and some of his connections, I'm sure. But he must have a basic understanding that more junior employees have to kind of sit through these time-wasting meetings, and they might be doing something productive rather than just feeling like they have to be in an office, in a meeting room to have these type of discussions and listen to senior middle management drone on in all these pointless meetings. And what I realize is often it's the smart, hard-working employees, the efficient employees who get bored in these meetings. They're messaging each other, and like I say, they're waiting for their time to speak. So it seems completely ridiculous. And the thing is he does accountability for the people who are participating in the meetings quite actively, who are inefficient time, right? Because you might have the people who are kind of bored in meetings. They're working from home. They might be halfway listening to what's being discussed, maybe getting on with other work projects. But a lot of people who are actively talking in these meetings, organizing these meetings, there's so much time wasting discussions from people who want to increase their visibility in front of senior management, other people at their level, to just talk to be seen, right? Talk to have the visibility, to appear to be busy, and almost this pointless chit chat that goes on in a lot of these meetings that you have to sit in on. I remember dealing with a very time sensitive trade amendment. We had to change a trade which was worth millions of dollars, which is quite common to change trades based on maybe a slight misunderstanding between one bank and another that is trading. And I had to sit through this 10-minute intro between my female co-workers who are more senior than me, chit-chatting about some podcast they were listening to about Enron and accounting fraud. It had nothing to do with the actual work, but this is the type of ridiculousness that goes on in the office in a lot of these meetings. So I don't think you can blame, working from home for people who want to work more efficiently, right? And saying they're disengaged from the work environment, okay? And then it really does make you think. It really does make you think how detached these people are. So let's continue to listen to him here.
And don't give me the shit that work from home Friday works. I call a lot of people on Friday. There's not a goddamn person to get a hold of. But here are the problems, okay? And they are substantial, okay? Which is the young generation is being damaged by this. That means they may or may not be on your particular staff, but they are being left behind. They're being left behind socially, ideas, meeting people. In fact, my guess is most of you live in communities a hell of a lot less diverse than this room. Every area should be looking to be 10% more efficient. If I was running a department of 100 people, I guarantee you, if I wanted to, I could run it with 90 and be more efficient. I guarantee you. I could do it in my sleep. And the notion, these bureaucracies, I need more people, I can't get it done. No, because you're filling out requests that don't need to be done. Your people are going to meetings they don't need to go to. Someone told me to approve some of his wealth management that they had to go to 14 committees. I am dying to get the name of the 14 committees. And I feel like firing 14 chairmen of committees. I can't stand it anymore. Now,
So, this chump CEO, this crybaby cringe CEO is going on about all these things, right? Now, the thing is, a couple of things when it comes to work from home, because he seems to be blaming or complaining about a lot of his own company culture, right? And he's been CEO for some time. He's not like a brand new CEO. If you weren't aware of his name, is quite famous in the banking industry. Now, firstly, blaming a lot of just inefficient things that have been going on in banks for many decades, really. It's not really, you can't blame that firstly on work from home or just these particular employees. Banks have been having these 14 committees he mentioned, right, of layers of approval to get some work done, to get some work projects approved. Now, my experience at many of these top banks, they do have tons of bureaucracy, tons of levels of layers of approval, basically to absolve any one individual if something goes wrong. So if there's some fraud that goes on in a trade, they'll just say, oh, we approved it, many committees approved it. Maybe we need to improve the process, the policy, the procedure, but it's never one individual's fault. So it's just basically to absolve anyone from personal accountability and shift the blame. And there's always type of shifting responsibilities and things like that. So no one takes responsibility for very questionable business activity they have, right? And then when it comes to working from home specifically, many banks had record profits during working from home, right? With the lockdowns, people were working from home. And if you can check profits, a lot of these corporations, they had a record profit throughout that time period. It wasn't like the whole economy shut down and all of a sudden these companies weren't making much money and people were not participating in work. They were working quite efficiently from home. So these are the type of things to really think about, right? So lots of people are leaking this type of calls, which is quite rare. People in the banking industry, they know how essentially their jobs at threat, if they are leaking things. People also, there's so sensitive gray areas that go on in the finance industry, like the medical industry and even the military industrial complex, where if you say one thing wrong, you leak it, your life could be endangered because, lots of questionable things do go on in these industries. So what's interesting is someone must have been so fed up with this that they were recording this call and they leaked it to the media, which is quite rare to do. You can imagine how many calls that the CEO or senior management have been venting or going on this type of rant that never gets leaked. Everyone's kind of heard it if you worked in the finance industry or any other industry where you're dealing with senior management. They have these temper tantrums. But it's interesting that this got leaked. It shows how fed up people are about the whole being dragged back to the office when they want to work from home. Now, he was complaining about work from home Fridays. Now, he's saying it doesn't work. But the truth is, let's be real, for most employees who are not multimillionaires like this guy or in a super high power position, work from home on Friday makes sense. Because Friday, no one's really working. Even if you're in the office, you're not really working. There's this phrase that I mention, and other people have mentioned it online, where your work week ends after your last meeting on Friday. Which means if you have a meeting on Friday, whether it's at 9 a.m. or in the afternoon, no one's really expecting, typically, unless you have a specific deadline, work to be done or emails to be sent on a Friday afternoon, right? It's a bit of a ridiculous thing. If you're sending email Friday afternoon that start new projects, it makes sense to start it on Monday. People aren't really going to be paying attention on a Friday. They're kind of waiting for the next week to start or for their week to start. So it's kind of ridiculous that he doesn't have these basic understandings of corporate culture. It's how detached is he? Or because he sounds detached, he doesn't sound like this typical corporate jargon playing a character. It's he doesn't get that people don't really do much work on Fridays. I don't know how he can't figure that out at this point, to be honest. And these are the type of things to mention. I do agree to a certain extent that, yes, the younger generation who are less experienced, it makes sense for them to be in an office, particularly during their younger years. I would say when you're more senior, maybe doing a hybrid, it depends on the scenario. Doing some hybrid work in the office, working from home makes a bit more sense because you don't need to be in the office all the time. But when you're more junior, yeah, it makes sense to spend more time in the office. But even then, he's not suggesting a hybrid approach. He's pushing people to be in the office 5 days a week. I would think if you're junior, it makes sense to be in the office 3 days a week because you're going to learn so many things by asking quick questions from people sitting next to you doing work projects and things like that, rather than when you're working from home, organizing meetings to discuss things or sending messages can be a bit annoying. Sometimes it's easier to do those things in person. But I don't know, it depends on the individual. And the thing is, he reversed his previous approach where he was letting local management decide who can work from home, who can be in the office, which makes more sense actually, that he should let the local management figure out the individual circumstances. Maybe someone does have their kids or they need to pick up their kids, right, on certain days from the school, right? Then they might make for them to work from home, and then maybe they have to take a late lunch break to pick up their kids, and then they work a bit later into the evening while they're working from home. Those are the type of things that just make perfect sense. And a lot of these, some of the tech roles in particular, it makes sense for them to be working from home. They can focus more when it comes to coding, certain complex information they need to be analyzing, rather than a busy trading floor or busy office in general. He also mentioned that, I can bet a lot of you people who work from home, you're not in a very diverse environment. And this is the type of ridiculous delusion that a lot of these multimillionaires and billionaires don't seem to get is that most people are seeing and experiencing some of the negative aspects of diversity and not always the positive aspects. If you're working in maybe a very wealthy environment, an affluent environment, and I've seen areas like this in London, in the finance industry through my experience, a lot of the times you're dealing with the higher class elements of diversity. And what I mean by that, there's an area, for example, in London where, without naming it specifically, sometimes I go for a walk there and they're quite wealthy people. You know, there'll be wealthy foreign investors, Italians, Indians, Nigerians, Eastern Europeans, all types of people. And it's an area where all the apartment blocks and all the apartments, I would estimate, cost $1 million or more, right? And they're near the River Thames, where is quite expensive property tends to be. It's like buying property on the Hudson River in New York, for example. And when they're in that super wealthy environment, you're always going to be around people who are firstly more relaxed because they're super rich and they don't have to stress about the day-to-day dealings of life and they live life at a slower pace. But also you're dealing with like a higher class of people, right? And people are getting on with each other because they're all making a lot of money. They might discuss business ideas and things like that. But when it comes to everyone else, when they're dealing with diversity, it sometimes can pose issues, cultural issues. People don't get different communities. All of a sudden they get lots of illegal migrants or, you know, completely different race or religion where they might not gel well or integrate well with others, speak foreign languages, higher crime rates, things like that. And I'm not saying these always are created by diversity. I'm just saying there's a big difference between him saying, oh, we need to be champions of diversity. You guys don't know what diversity is like if you work from home. It's a bit ridiculous and it sounds a bit insulting because some people might be living and struggling to pay for food for their kids or at least see their living costs go up like 30 to 50%. And meanwhile, there might be a hotel that is housing illegal migrants and the government is taking your tax money, 30-40% of your income, and giving it to migrants to live a relatively comfortable life in a hotel. So it's just completely ridiculous when he plays a diversity card. It's like he's not even an example of diversity in this case. And you know, we can do the early life check and see his background there, which I won't get onto on this platform, right? So it really does make you think, right? The goal of a company should be to make profit and maximize profits and minimize costs, right? And one of those ways is letting people work from home so they're not in the office and they're not taking up expensive real estate when they can work from home, and people are paying for their own electricity, their own food, whatever, their own kind of internet access. So it should be saving the company a lot of money. But like I say, these companies would rather control you than give you the freedom to live life on your own basis, right? So it should be all about people getting the work done, the company making more money for themselves and for their employees rather than trying to push diversity. But these corporations, you know, they're an extension of the deep state or liberal feminist agenda, however you want to name it, the economic forum, things like that. So they're so focused on those agendas rather than making a lot of money for their companies. And one quick thing he mentioned there, I would say, was a threat to lay off employees. He said, well, we can all run our departments on less employees. We only need 90% of employees. The other 10%, they're kind of waste, right? He words it in a typical nice corporate way. But if you're working at JP Morgan or you hear this type of rhetoric, restructuring, we need to rethink the way we do things, how we organize structure. A lot of these things are kind of vague ways of senior management telling middle management and giving a bit of a hint to everyone else. Yeah, we're going to be cutting jobs soon, right? We don't need as many people as we thought we did. And the thing is, these pointless meetings and these time-wasting committees, they exist whether you're working from home or working in the office. Like I say, it's not really right to kind of blur the lines and blame a lot of these things on people working from home. Inefficiencies exist, I would say, more so in the office than the people working from home. Let's listen to the final clip here.
Have a choice. You don't have to work at JP Morgan. So the people of you who don't want to work at the company, that's fine with me. I'm not mad at you. Don't be mad at me. It's a free country. You can walk with your feet. If this company is going to set our own standards and do it our own way. And I've had it with this kind of stuff. And, you know, I come in, you know, I've been working 7 days a goddamn week since COVID. And I come in and where's everybody else? But they're here and there, and the Zooms don't show up. And people say they didn't get stuff. So that's not how you run a great company. We didn't build this great company by doing that, by doing the same semi-disease shit that everybody else does.
So there we go, right? There we've just ran through this kind of cringe CEO venting. So firstly, again, he drops a subtle threat to fire employees. If you don't come back to the office, you'll get laid off, right? That's what he's saying indirectly, and they get away with saying these type of things. A couple of things I wanted to point out here, right? So he's got this subtle threat to fire you. and he's whinging about working 7 days a week, but he's the CEO, right? And senior management, even below his level, are very high salaries. You know how much he got paid in 2024? $40 million, $40, right? $40 million, not 14, 40, right? So, I mean, it's completely ridiculous, right? He got 1.5 million as his base salary, and the other amount, about roughly, let's just say 39 million, he got that in bonuses, right? And the way that's structured is to kind of limit the tax burden on himself. Some of that will be stock options, things like that. So he'll have stock in the company, all these type of ways. And he's also a billionaire. So like this type of venting about working 7 days a week, he could retire right now if he wanted to, right? I think he had a health issue a few years ago. He's thinking about retiring. But he's working because he wants to work. Let's not act like he's forced to, or he has so high bills, the inflation's impacting him. That's not the case here, right? And the thing is, he's not like someone like me or you who might be in that situation, who have a bit more stress from the inflation, from the high living cost, dysfunctional social situations and things like that. He's not really impacted by that. And many people out there watching my channel right now, in a sense, you might be working 7 days a week because you're working 5 days in the office, and you might spend the weekend working on your side hustle. And even if you don't have a side hustle, you're not like a billionaire like this who doesn't have to worry about any aspect of his life apart from work, right? He doesn't have to do the basic tasks we all have to do, like laundry, meal prep, food shopping, deal with the school system being trash. If you have kids, you might have to teach your kids in the evening on the weekends, or take them to their fitness classes, or playing football with their local high school football team. He doesn't have to do any of that. He has an assistant. He has people who would pick up anything, any type of time wasting task he has to do, right? He can outsource everything. So it's completely different, like living standards and what he's complaining about. So many people nowadays are working 7 days a week. They just don't classify it as that. They just think, oh, 2 days I'm doing my side hustle on the weekend, but you're still working. And the thing is, we're going to say, okay, boomer, right? Some of you familiar with the phrase, okay, boomer. And that's, just saying boomers are out of touch, or these older generations are out of touch, right? Now, clearly, the younger generation can work from anywhere. Zoomers, millennials, even Gen X, things like that. People have adapted to that way of making money on their laptops. And it seems like everyone did this over 2 to 3 years in the lockdowns. People work from home, digital nomads, people working online, making money like that. And the fact that they can't adapt and adjust to this really speaks for itself. That they want people in the office. It's like they always talk about innovation and being the ahead of the curve, all these corporations, but they don't seem to want to do it when it comes to giving any leverage to the employees or any element of free time. And also, I just want to note for all the men out there, you know how tightly they control in corporate environments how you speak. They don't want you being too assertive. They don't want you being too aggressive and direct. They always want you to be effeminate, domesticated, emasculated. But the management, they get away with this type of aggressive talk, right? And I remember hearing it a few times throughout my career in the finance industry, right? You can see how he lacks emotional control. He's aggressive, unprofessional, swearing. These are all you're cursing. These are the type of negative feedback you would get if you were speaking like this as a man in the office, but he tends to get away with it, right? Being an aggressive, assertive man is only reserved for, senior management, right? Everyone else isn't allowed to be that. Every other man has to be soft and effeminate, not to offend the feminist woman and other weak liberal men, right? To get things done. So this is the thing. The truth is, in order to get things done, you have to be aggressive and assertive as a man. You have to be blunt. But you're not allowed to do that in the corporate environment, and it allows for all the inefficiencies to go on. Everyone has to tiptoe around women's emotions and things like that, or really incompetent people, DEI hires, things like that. And that's what makes things move slower at your level, wherever you are in the company, when you're not at this top level where you have to be a bit ruthless to get things done. And I don't mean ruthless as in insulting people, but like being very direct. And if you've ever worked on your own side business, on your own kind of side hustle, or even amongst your tight-knit group of friends as a man, if you're in that situation, you can see how being very direct and getting on with things can really accelerate progress. But it's so hindered typically in the corporate environment unless you're at the senior level, because most people aren't allowed to talk like this. So we're going to go into like some of the details, right? All these employees are pushing back employee surveys. There's a lot of internal drama going on at JP Morgan. And let's check out some of these little quotes here. So what ended up happening is employees were saying that they really do want to work from home, but it shows that corporations, even though they talk about caring about employees so much, of course they don't, right? It's all garbage propaganda. Here it says, Jamie Dimon was asked about employees wanting to work from home. He said, don't waste my time on that whole survey or petition people are pursuing. I don't care how many people sign that effing petition, because people are basically revolting internally, right? They're signing a petition. They don't want to work in the office. They want to work from home. And then it continues to go on here. So 950 people have signed a petition against the 5-day policy. So you've got almost 1,000 people who've signed a petition. Now, JP Morgan's a particularly big, bloated, inefficient bank. They've got over 300,000 employees. I don't know what they're doing. I think the companies, sometimes I see these companies and it's just like, some inefficiencies are going on. I don't think that can be blamed on work from home. But if 1,000 people have signed this petition and they don't mind their name being on it, that really shows you how fed up they are with the particular dynamic at JP Morgan, right? And then if we talk about, what's actually going on right now, let's talk about their profits, right? JP Morgan's profits surged to a record in 2024, and its share price has roughly doubled in the past 5 years. The strong performance prompted some workers to question why they need to spend more time in the office. And this is the thing, right? I'm telling you, they're making top profits, people working from home, even last year when the lockdowns weren't live. So it's like, why do you need to drag people back to the office if profits are record highs, right? Obviously, if you're going to justify that the company's so damaged by people working from home, then there has to be some evidence there beyond anecdotal things. I'm looking around in the office, I can't see any people, but they're working from home, they must not be working, right? It's like, that's ridiculous. You won't be making this high profit if people were doing nothing working from home. Now, Jamie Dimon, the CEO we were just listening to, of course, he's asked all the bank's departments to show these 10% gains in efficiencies, or it'd be, 10% cuts, right, in their reports, their meetings, their documents, their training sessions. And again, all these inefficiencies exist within the office. I've been mainly within the office for over a decade in the finance industry at top banks like Goldman and Morgan Stanley, right? And without being HSBC too, and without naming anyone specifically, any bank specifically, all these efficiencies could have been implemented over a decade ago, right? The inefficiencies have grown, they've got worse. So bloated approval processes, all these type of things, never-ending committee meetings, never-ending pointless meetings. You have like a meeting, like a mini team meeting for your team of maybe 4 or 5 people, then a bigger team meeting, then a bigger team meeting, then a global team meeting where you have to have meetings with your equivalents in New York and Asia, because those are the kind of business hubs, and there's not much to discuss because what's going on in each area is very different, and very rarely is there anything to talk about. Then you've got, if there's a slight business connection between, let's just say, for example, the FX trading desk and the e-trading, electronic trading desk, then you have to have a meeting about that, even if there's nothing much going on beyond some loose connection and there's no actual topics to discuss. You'll have to have meetings about that. They create meeting after meeting, which is pointless, but it's just what they've decided to do. You can't really blame that on any particular individual. You should have resolved that before the 2020 situation, right? That was always there. If you're dealing with these type of scenarios, you're working in the finance industry and you're considering how can you best deal with these type of things. I've worked in the industry for over a decade. I've dealt with toxic management, toxic CEOs. I've worked with C-suite level executives, and in preparing a lot of content they'd be reviewing and liaising directly with C-level executives like chief legal officers and things like that. So I've seen the good and the bad of all these type of scenarios, and I have a coaching program to help you navigate through these difficult dynamics, whether you want to work from home, develop a financial freedom plan, consider how you can pursue self-employment, being a man in these environments where you're kind of having a lot of heavy boundaries on how you express yourself and how you deal with challenging circumstances, and then these unpredictable layoffs, how to manage promotions so you're not caught up in these type of contentious situations with senior management. I cover all this in my coaching program, and there's a link in description if you want to speak with me directly, and I look forward to speaking with you if you want to schedule a call through that link. Let me know in the comments, how do you feel about these CEOs and their venting and their cringe nature, to put it nicely. And there are 2 recommended videos on your screen right now, and I'll see you in the next video.